And welcome to Saturday's live stream on the Jazz Mental channel. It's Paul Tobey here. Thank you once again for joining me for another one of these sessions. Today's topic will be Monk. Now, for those of you that love Monk, you love Monk. For those that don't, probably don't. But somewhere in between, there's some music that he creates that needs to be talked about. Specifically his compositions, and we're going to be working on one of his most famous compositions, if not the most famous, called Round Midnight. And what I've done for this session is I've transcribed his own personal solo piano version. Now, he did several of them, so this is just one of them. Each time he played it a little bit differently, but a lot of the times there was tremendous similarities with the way he approaches his own composition. And to start off, I'm going to put a link in the chat to that transcription. It's free to download for everybody that attends today. The link will stop working once the session is over. And I apologize for that. Lots of people are wondering why I do that. And the answer is, and you all know by now, for those of you that are regular, that I reward people for showing up because I think 80% of success is just showing up. And if you show up for these things, you probably pick up an idea or two here or there. There's a bunch of countries represented here today before I post the sheet music. We've got America, Spain, Buenos Aires. We've got France, Korea, United States, Canada. It's nice to see a lot of regulars here, which is kind of nice. Hey, Lisa and Alan and Rich and Peter, Dawn, Amodi, nice to see you. And Jean-Pierre, nice to see you. Bienvenue. Jess Pritchard, Keith, Claudio, and for those of you that haven't joined yet, and of course, if I missed anyone, I regret that. I'm just kind of paying attention to some of the chat. James, nice to see you. And Karen, hey, welcome back. Okay, so listen, let me post the link to the sheet music. Here we go. And I'm going to pin that to the top of the chat and give you a chance to go download it while I play the tune. I am going to post, I think, a little bit of the first page on the screen just momentarily, just to show you what the sheet music looks like. And there it is. So you can see that it's a complete transcription in the original key, which is G flat or E flat minor, which kind of makes it interesting, I think, to have all those flats. And will definitely be fun making our way through the tune. Now, I'm going to do a couple of things with this. One is I'm going to play it as close to what Monk played as possible, so you can tell what sheet music you're downloading. And two, I'm going to play a little bit of soloing on it, trying to sort of emanate a little bit of Monk style, but inevitably you're going to get Paul Tobey style in there without too much thought. So let's get the tune underway. I think I'll remove the sheet music from your screen because as soon as I get past the first A section, then you're wondering, well, why am I not scrolling the sheet music? And the answer is I can't really scroll while I'm playing. I will take a breather right at the end because there's an ending that I need to scroll down and see myself. And I'm actually reading the sheet music on a different screen, which is kind of interesting because I have not memorized his version, which I think I can be forgiven for because, you know, I only have so much time to do these things and prepare for them. I don't really have time to memorize somebody else's playing. All right, so I've got my sheet music on the screen. Make sure you don't. Yes, correct. And so like I said, I'm going to pause like near the end because there's an ending that I need you to hear and we will discuss it. So let me shut this microphone off just so there's no feedback. Let me know, by the way, in the chat if you can hear the piano and my vocals fine. That would be really great. I really need that feedback because I don't have anybody to tell me what it's like. So your help in that regard is much appreciated. All right, let's play the tune. Okay, so for everyone who just joined us, thank you. Just reading some of the comments so far. And thank you for giving me the feedback on the sound. It's nice to hear that everything is coming through loud and clear. And for everyone who's joined us, thank you for being here as well. A couple of names: Serge, Mr. Lightning, Don, George, Peter, Keith. Nice to see everybody here. I like the clapping in the chat. That's very nice, Mr. Lightning. I appreciate that. I can't remember your first name. I'm not sure if you shared it with me at all, Lightning, but if you could do that, that would be great. So I can try to remember it for next session. I know that you've been here several times, so that's nice. Okay, so it says from James, which recording did you transcribe? I actually don't know. I just found it on YouTube. So I will have to share that with you at some point. I don't know. I just kind of took the one off YouTube and there you go. It's not the entire solo. I just kind of transcribed the head and the ending, which I thought was kind of cool. How many of you dug that little ending kind of thing? Because that we're going to actually talk about. So what I'm going to do right now, as I continue to take your questions and your comments, and by the way, I appreciate all of that, I'm going to show the sheet music on your screen one more time, because we're going to literally look at some of the things that I think are important about Monk's playing. And it's going to be technical. So for those of you that are here for entertainment, how about some edutainment? So we're going to be educational and entertaining at the same time. And full screen. Here we go. What we're going to do is play it bar by bar and just kind of listen for some of the interesting sounds that Monk makes. It's a very non-traditional bebop. It's a lot of people criticized Monk over the years for not adhering to some of the other bebop norms, the things set forth by, people like Charlie Parker and even Miles Davis. He had his own style. And I think it's important to note that he wasn't really an educated musician. And so the things that he came up with tended to be very original because he wasn't really influenced by anyone. So if we take a look at the first bar, one of the very first things you'll see is if I'm playing the tune, I'm like filling in, chords like this. Monk is very sparse in his playing. So just got this left hand going. That's very typical of Monk to do things like that. Play melody and just a walking bass line. And then right this very next bar, you get chords that are quite unique to Monk. So we've got a C diminished seventh chord here. Now that, and let me just circle the one we're talking about right here. It's C diminished seventh, and it's a drop two voicing. And that's, again, a Monk thing. So if you look at a C diminished seventh chord, this is the chord. Take the second note from the top and drop it to the bottom for that inversion. But if you have a different inversion, like this one, so these are the same, right? Same chords. For root position, first inversion, second inversion, third inversion. In this particular case, it's a second inversion chord. Take the second note from the top, drop it down, and you get this chord. So notice the difference in sound between this. Just open your ears for a second and listen. Versus this. Because the bass note changes, it changes and shifts like your entire perspective. So listen. Now, Monk is very known for his shell voicings. Shell voicings meaning 1 and 7. So he's consistently playing like 1 and 7 in the left hand. So you got an F and a G flat. So that's, I know I wrote A minor 7 because that's what it is, but it's A minor 7 over F. This is the chord over F. So interesting, right? It's like an A minor 7 with a 13. in the bass. So that's where Monk differs from everybody else. It's all about like this consistent dissonance. And then just a C minor 7 flat 5 chord, which is nice. And again, he's back to single notes. Like he goes from this, and then you've got this 2-5. So 2-5 in A, and then a 2-5 in A flat. So where does that come from? Well, that's actually, if you throw out the top notes, let's just X out this note and just play the other notes, you get this. It's just a simple, like, these are the chord tones here in the right hand, changing one note. You know, you could just keep going around the circle of fifth all day long, but that's basically it. Right? And all he's doing is, instead of playing this, he's duplicating the lowest note of the right hand in the melody. Right? I mean, again, you could go around the circle of fifth, but that's basically what he's done there. Now, that's a very simple voicing. If I'm voicing B minor 7 to E7, it's more like this. Like, but Monk is sparse in that regard, right? To A minor 7. So this is the first example of real solid dissonance, is him putting minor seconds. So this is like a semitone interval right up near the melody. Listen to that. And he wouldn't just like play that softly, he would pelt that out. So he'd be like, I mean, if you ever watched Monk play the piano, it's more like a hunt and peck method, like this. And his fingers were really flat. And he'd be like that. I hope the piano's not distorting because I don't usually play that loud, but yeah, I mean, that's Monk, right? Putting these minor seconds in. And then on the E flat minor 7, and then after that, you've got this A7, A flat 7, sharp 11 chord. So think of that like B flat major over A flat. That's kind of how to think of like sharp 11 chords. So here in the middle is like your B flat chord without the B flat, right? Left hand, the shell voicing again. But listen to that. I mean, in the right context, if you think about that chord, so if this is an A flat 7 sharp 11 chord, typically you would see an E flat chord, right? You'd be surrounding it with something, but Monk just kind of throws it in there for no other reason than it creates dissonance, right? And then he does it again on the B flat 7 sharp 11 chord. So he did this on A flat, and then he just goes up to B flat, does the same thing. And then if you look at this section right here, that's whole tone scale, which is very typical. Have you ever heard this Monk do this? I mean, that's Monk, and he's got flat fingers, so for him it would look like this. You know? And so what he's done here is he's arpeggiated kind of like part of a whole tone scale. So first time ending. I mean, that's, I don't know if that's brilliant or just random stuff. Definitely whole tone scale. Cool. cool stuff, though. Let's check in with everybody and see how we're making out. There must be a few questions so far. I absolutely love the ending. Thank you, George. I will get to that momentarily. The movement in your left hand to keep the flow are intriguing. Thank you. Good morning, Ben from Boston. Good morning. Piano sounds wonderful. Monk made sure you heard the clusters for sure. Yeah, I mean, that's just totally Monk. And by clusters, you mean this kind of stuff, right? B flat 7, sharp 11, A flat 7, sharp 11, D7, D flat 7 with this minor second in the middle. Yeah, I mean, that's what Monk was all about. Absolutely. The only one I've seen play like Monk was Slim Gillard, but he also played upside down. I agree with Keith that the vocal mic is a bit what? Oh, hot. Sorry. Jeez, I didn't even know that. Thank you for that feedback. I don't know how it got like that. Let me know if that's better. I wasn't paying attention to that. My apologies if it was too hot for everybody. Paul, I'd be curious to hear your version of this tune. You mean like the head? Yeah, I've recorded it several times. I will, closer to the end, I'll play a version of my own, not Monk's version, just to kind of show you the major difference between his playing and mine. And George says he just discovered Slim Gillard. All right, good feedback so far. Let's keep going with the tune. I'm going to shut this part out and go to the bridge. It's going to take me a second because I've got to make a new screenshot so that I can write on it. And again, make sure you let me know about the hot mic because I totally apologize for that. And again, I'm just looking to know from you whether the mic is fixed or not. I don't know if it's still too hot or if it's not loud enough. It's kind of, there isn't a lot of movement in the mic. It's like little tiny movements create giant differences. So I want to make sure that everybody's cool with it. All right, so here we are at like the bridge, right? So it's going, and then it ends on E flat major. Typical Monk, and you've got a minor second in the melody. And then what he does is like this. So he's doing like an E flat 6 chord arpeggio, but he ends on E flat major 7. So that's interesting. So there's contrast between those two things, which is kind of interesting. And then let me see if I can move down a little bit. The first part of the bridge. So the first 4 bars are this. We've heard those voicings before. And then there's that B flat 7. This time I wrote flat 5 instead of sharp 11. But basically it's this note. Flat 5, sharp 11. Kind of the same thing. I think this is a mistake on Monk's part in this particular recording. Let me take a screenshot of the right section though and make sure you can see that. I think Monk was a little erratic at times, so it's not unusual to see chords that don't necessarily fit the tune. And what I'm referring to is this series of 2 5s. So the first one is here. So you've got a 2-5 of G flat, and then you've got a 2-5 of E flat. But that's not typically how the tune goes. And then he's going to F minor. That's not normally how it goes. So it goes like that. So you've got this 2-5 in E flat, which doesn't go to A flat, goes to C half diminished 7th chord, which I don't know if it makes sense or not, but listen. He would be maybe better off to go to to F sharp to B. Nancy? You're good? Okay. So A flat to D to F minor to B flat 7. So it I don't know. Again, I thought it would be better just to kind of go to F sharp minor 7 instead of F minor 7, which is kind of interesting. Whatever. You can make of that what you will. I think it's unintentional. I think he just kind of like landed there. Let's move on. So we're bar 16, bar 17. So again, what you'll find in Monk's playing, if you just look at this section right here, here to all the way through here, you've got consistent force. So you got spacing and force in the right hand and shell voicings in the left hand. And this was fairly, I think, typical of Monk because his fingers were flat and they didn't necessarily move normally like most piano players. So what he would do is he would just go down a scale. Just like that, just in half steps. And this is how he would come up with voicings. He'd find the first one, which is here, and then he'd just go, which is what he's done here. So that half step descending movement, you're going to find a lot in Monk's playing. Go back to the chat. Amodi says Mike is good now. Excellent. Mike is much better for piano jazz as well. Rich. Okay, perfect. All right. Let's see. Now, I got to move down the sheet music one more time to get to the ending. You're going to find the last A pretty much the same, but I want to do this ending because somebody, and I can't remember who, pointed out how interesting it was, because it kind of is. But before we get right to that, I want to show you how he ends the tune after playing the first head. So he plays, it's an AABA tune, as everybody can surmise. But then at the end of the first section, he does this, which is that whole tone scale that we talked about. So ends on E flat major, and then this scale has nothing to do with E flat major. It's just a whole tone scale. But listen, over E flat major, it's like just wrong. So why does he do it? Because that's Monk's sound. Monk was all about turning the ear on its end. Fortunately, he does end on E flat, which is kind of nice. And then we get to the bridge. So basically, this is the ending. It'd be like a third time ending here. And then the bridge, and then the ending, the coda starts here. So yeah, I mean, the coda definitely starts at this bar here, but it's still like the second time ending, right? And then we get to E flat major. And then immediately after playing E flat major, he goes back to minor. And that to me is just, why not play E flat major? To me it sounds better, but whatever, he just goes directly to minor. I mean, you play this chord and then you hear this. I mean, the connection between the two does not exist. And then he does another 2/5. And then he does a 2/5 of E major. So he went from the key of B flat, let's see, he went from the key of B flat minor to E major. Interesting. And then he stays in E major. Then he goes into the key of A. Let me make sure you can see this on your screen. Yeah. So I'm talking about here, right? He's going, pen. So this is E major here, E major, right through here, and then he switches to A major over here. So we've gone from minor to two really major keys. I mean, you can't get more major than E major and A major. So from the C minor 7 flat 5 to A major, and he puts a flat 9 in there like we're going to A minor. Interesting. But he doesn't go there, he goes to A flat. And that, I'm going to have to scroll. So and then he goes to A flat minor, or whatever key that is. So it's in the key of G flat. And then it does a B flat 13. Interesting, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense. Like if you played this at a cocktail piano bar, they'd probably toss you out on your ear because it's really outside. All right, let's go from the A flat minor chord. Then hit cluster, right, to D flat. It's a D flat 7. I apologize for that. Make that correction on your sheet music. It's not a D flat major 7. It's a D flat 7 chord. That's just a slip of the software. I apologize for that. I just picked the wrong chord. So let me write it here. I'm talking about here. So this is, just throw that out. It's just a D flat 7 chord. And then remember we talked a little bit earlier about that parallel motion, where he's going to E flat 7 to D7. So you can see it's just descending in semitones, right? E flat D, D flat C, B, B flat, down to E, E flat, right? So, but listen to the chords. So he's going from E flat 7 to D7 sharp 11, or flat 5, right? So there's that chord we had before. We had it on B flat here. A flat. We had it on A flat. And we had it on B flat. Now he's doing the same thing at the end, except he's putting it on the D7 chord, which is this. Exact same voicing. Right? So he does this. Let me start with the right chord. And then this chord at the end, I don't know, comes out of nowhere. It's an E flat major 7, sharp 11 chord. You got major 7, you got ninth in there, sharp 11. But what a weird voicing, because you got a tritone in there, right? But okay. Still works because, it's Monk. So let's take it from the beginning of the first line that you can see on your screen. We're going from this. There is obviously explanations for that, which I tried and attempted to do. Does it make sense in a traditional harmony standpoint? Yes, because descending in semitones is pretty typical. Seventh chords in a row, pretty typical. But to go from this voicing, which is pretty straight ahead, to this cluster on D7 sharp 11, which we've had several times throughout the tune. Maybe that's why he did it. Nevertheless, that's Monk. And I think it's important to pay attention to these things because that's what made him different. And that was what Monk was all about, being different. Peter says, can you comment on how to play the D flat 7 chord in bar 23? Well, first thing I have to do is find bar 23 and display that on your screen. Right, that one. Screenshot. So we are talking about this D flat 7 chord. So nobody can play this the way that it's written. Right? So you've got the third in the top, you've got this note, minor second, and then you've got an F. So that's fine, but how do you catch this note? Which you don't really need because it's already represented in this minor second. So this is the way I do it. I just do that. So you've got B flat, B minor, B flat 7. Or whatever the next chord is. Okay. I hope that answers that question. Is the last chord a major 13 or a major 9? It is there's the 9, 3rd, 7th, and sharp 11. Yeah, you could say it's a major 9 chord. It's probably the better way to describe it. Again, when you put chord symbols for these things, a lot of it is just sort of like, I'm blowing through it going, how does it make the most sense? And do I literally stop to like think, what is the absolute perfect chord symbol to put there? No, to me, the difference between an E flat major 13 chord and an E flat major 9 chord is just a choice of extension. Doesn't mean you can't use the 13. You could put it in there if you wanted to, which is this note, which wouldn't change the chord very much at all, right? So this note here is C natural. Actually, I think it makes it nicer. But anyway, so yeah, E flat major 9, great. Thanks for pointing that out. But again, the difference between the two is nominal. And if you want to be absolutely precise, E flat major 9 would be a better choice. Thank you. All right, got about 20 minutes. So here's what I'm going to do. That's the analysis that I wanted to give you. Of course, I have to be careful in these things. I don't want to completely overwhelm everybody and go, oh, note by note, and everybody gets bored. I just kind of pointed out what I thought was the most unique Monk-isms, which is, I think I made all of them. I don't think there's really anything in there that I missed. So Jerry says, last chord, Kenny Barron voicing. I don't know. I studied with Kenny Barron. He might have played that. It's interesting. I got a quick story about Kenny Barron. When I went to take a few lessons with Kenny in New York, I remember going down to this basement on this really crappy old upright. And the funny thing about Kenny Barron is he can't read or write music. And someone who was schooled like me, who had pretty traditional classical training and then university and college and all that kind of stuff, I ran into somebody who couldn't read or write music and had learned completely by ear and by watching other people play. I asked him a lot of the time, if he played that like this, I'd be like, well, what is that? And he goes, well, I don't know, it's just this. That's what he would say, it's just this. And then he'd do things like this. And I go, what is that? And he goes, it's just this. I think it's what you call diminished or something, like, and that's the way he would explain things. And at the end of the session, I just said, well, do you have any advice as I go back into the world? And he'd be like, yeah, man, play more with your heart. Which I think is interesting, which I've learned to do over the years. So thanks for the advice, Kenny. It was actually well taken. Amodi says, yes, that's definitely a Kenny voicing. Perfect. Glad you guys know that. All right. What I'm going to do is play the tune without Monk, just the head, and then you can kind of listen to it. And I think this is a good listening exercise to find the difference between the two. I'll play the head a la Paul Tobey, and then come back and you can tell me what you think or point out specific areas of it, like, hey, Paul, can you play the A section again when you did that 2-5 of whatever, and show us how to do that? Or you can ask me anything you want. But I think it's a good lesson in how different piano players approach tunes, not just soloing, but tunes as well. So let's play a little bit of the tune. Any thoughts? Whoops. Any thoughts on that? Was there, I mean, there's some similarities to what Monk played. You can't really get away from it because it's just the nature of E flat minor. Piano Jazz said, man, I truly dig your version, Paul. Those fourths are killer. Thank you. Alan says, would you provide a suggestion for the fingering on the descending whole tone scale? Yeah, sure. Why not? So this is my fingering. You're using 4, 3, 2, 1. So if we start on B flat, doesn't matter what note you start on, it's still going to be the same fingering. It's 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1. If you went up the scale, it's this. 2, 1. So 1, 2, 1. You got to catch 2, 3, and 4 on the black notes. And that's the fingering I use. Doesn't make it right. It's just what I use, and I think it's the easiest. At measure 8, what did you play on the B flat 7 sharp 11 chord? Measure 8. this chord. I played a B flat 7 flat 9 chord. Why? Because it's going back to E flat minor. So 2 5, like F half diminished 7th. So B flat 7 flat 9. And then how did I arpeggiate that? Go from the 7th to the root to the flat 9 to the 3rd of the chord to the 5th. Like that. So 3rd finger, 2nd finger, 3rd finger, 2nd finger, left hand, and then 1, 2, and 4 in the right hand. You could add more notes to that if you wanted to. So a little bit of back and forth. Where you're playing this chord, it's like a B major, B flat 7, B flat half diminished 7th over B flat 7. If you want more dissonance. So there you go. I just answered your question, Alan. I anticipated it. What run did you do on B flat 7 sharp 11? There you go. That's what I did. Right? I might have done this with the 13th instead of this. Depends on how I feel in the moment. Okay. Absolutely cool run. Thank you, Paul. You're very welcome. Any other questions about that version? We have to knock off at noon today. I have to go to a funeral. It's a sad day, actually. Longtime friend and family member, not family member, but friend of the family as well. And I'm actually playing at the funeral. They asked me to play. So I have to leave right at noon because I have to drive an hour and a half to get there. And the funeral's at 3. So I apologize for not going overtime today, but we will go right to noon. Hopefully you've had a chance to download the free sheet music. It's still pinned to the top of the chat. Make sure you grab that. And comment, that run is hot. I don't know, it's actually fairly simple to do. Let's play it again and let's show you different versions. You'll notice also, unlike Monk, is that I play dramatic differences every time I play a tune. It's never even close to like the same thing. There might be some similar voicings in there, but listen to this version. It's just going to be like different. A little bit of difference, right? That one is just D7, the sharp 11 triad in the top. Unlike Monk, who would do that, I just make it more, not too far out, right? And that's just E major 7 to E flat. So here we are in B flat 7 again. Let's see if we can come up with something different. Instead of this, let's play something different. So what did I do there? So basically, it's like a B major 7 chord over B flat, but there's changes in it. So we're putting the 13th in there. And it's nice to come up with these things because you don't always want to just do this, right? I mean, it's impressive to look at, sort of, until you do it once. And then everybody's like, what else you got? And the answer is, we've got this. A little bit of bebop in there. Enclosure around the 13th, right? And then play something else here. So here's your 2-5-1 of A flat, then a 2-5-1 of G flat, and then B7 sharp 11 or whatever the heck it is. We're back to B flat, play something else. This is force. Okay. What else can I do in the short 5 minutes that I have? Thanks for your questions and your comments, everybody. I really appreciate it. I would say just one quick thing. A few people made some donations last week, and I appreciate that very much. I'm not asking anybody to do it, but what I will say is if you are going to make a donation, do it at the jazzmental.com channel, because YouTube takes a large portion of your donations and they keep it. So I just wanted to point that out, because every cent that you donate to the channel, and I know that many of you have, and I appreciate that very much, it's better to do it at the Jazz Mental channel. Every cent goes to like paying the transcriber and the web guys and the hosting and all of the stuff that it takes. It's a labor of love. There really isn't a lot of money in it, let me tell you. Don't be starting YouTube channels anytime soon, because for the amount of effort that it takes, there's not that much financial reward. So every donation is used, every dime of it. But just, you know, like I say, if you make a donation here in the chat, YouTube keeps a generous portion of it. So I just wanted to point that out as a follow-up from last week. This is not something I knew, because you started doing that last week and it came out of nowhere and I learned about it. So there you go. All right, let's do what I'm going to do now is play swing, because I think it's good, and then we'll end. Swing on this tune is not the easiest thing to do. So, and somebody mentions Bud Powell, so that would be Bud Powell. This is Bud Powell's sort of version, is playing swing. So let's do that and let's see what it sounds like, and then I'll come back and bid you farewell until next week. All right, that's it for today. Thanks so much, everyone. It's been a pleasure. I'm off to do other things. We will see everybody next week. Make sure you grab the sheet music because it's about to disappear. Thanks, and I appreciate all of your feedback and comments today. And we will see you next week.